delivery. Come get some.
Greetings, Commanders. I wanted to take some time to talk to you about ore mining. I've been following through the chats in the Discord and pulling for topics related on mining, and compiled most of them into this video here. For most commanders, this is going to be common tribal knowledge. However, for new commanders, I hope this guide can save some time and frustration as you begin your mining expeditions. Quick caveat, this video is only about mining, not about refining, which is a whole nother can of worms. So let's start at the beginning. What is ore? Ore can be found in many systems throughout Nimbus and is essential to every part of fabricating ships, weapons, and modules. Type M ore can be found in Hygarian space, blue space, on the map, and is required for every tier. You're always going to need some M ore. Tiers 1 through 4 currently have a couple grades of ore, so you'll have A, B, and C, and then there's a little bit more rare D, which you don't need as much, but you'll still need some. The tier corresponds to where they're found and which system tier. So tier 2 ore is going to be found in tier 2 systems, while tier 4 ore is going to be found in tier 4 systems. And how much you mine is a factor of 1, the purity of the belts that you go to, which we'll talk a little bit about later. 2 is going to be speed and collectors, and then as well as the configuration of your ship. Tier 3 and Tier 4 gases will have their own video. It's a whole different mining process for those. And then T4 crystals, can't mine those yet. You can only find them by getting to Tier 4 signals and liaison missions. So where can we find ore? Ore can be found in any system in the system map that has the asteroid icon next to it. So this little negative square with a couple, looks like specks or rocks in it. Popular mining locations by tier, and I apologize to Stratosphere for absolutely butchering these names, but for tier 1 we got Devadasi, tier 2 we got Marikatan, another tier 1 mining is also Etawana, one that I like. For tier 3 we have Tibeta Beta, Tibeta, and we also have Tunda Miran here. For tier 4, another location that we got there is zoom in, Ataltan and Taltan, and also Marikatia. Now this one's amazing because look at how many asteroid belts this has. 13 known asteroid belts. So there is plenty of places to mine in Makita. The other Antautan is a little bit higher tier and harder to get to, but apparently it's a little bit easier. Now, what that kind of is the tier and the rating of not only the system, but the belts that are in the system. So overall, this Devadasi is a tier 1, level 2 system. However, we'll see that in the signals, we kind of have plus or minus of that number. So we have down to 1 and we have up to 4, level 4 asteroid belts. So as soon as we scan this, most of these will appear if you have a high enough sensor level. And when we click on this, we'll see that it has one specific RU type. But once we actually get into the asteroid belt, you'll see that all the types are available. It's just that B has a higher purity in this belt. And we'll see that all belts are going to have a different one, so A, B, or C. And there are no D belts. D belts are found, or D ore is found in any of these other A, B, or C belts. All right, before we get into mining ore, we need to configure our fleet bridge. Miners will generally have a higher physical stat, which will increase controller collector yield, while passive perk applies to the position. So we can see this with our miners here on the bridge. My Yosef Sagol has a physical skill of about 150, but the asteroid mining type B, I'm getting a 15% buff. Now, physical stats increase yield, and it increases total yield, not just a specific RU type. It increases total yield at a rate of about 5% per 100 stat. So we see that the physical stat of this officer here would give us about a 7% increase in 7.5% increase in all RU mining. But what's more important about this particular officer is his passive skills. So asteroid mining RU type B, he gets a plus 15% yield. So that's twice as good as what his general physical yield would, or his physical stat would do for the general yield. So there are a few types of mining perks, but the most essential are RUY, which is just going to be a general mining yield for collectors. We're going to have the RUY with a type ore, and this is going to be for a specific type of ore. So it doesn't buff A, it only buffs B yields. Or this particular one would only buff A yields and no B yields. And then we also have RUYM or RMY. This is a remote mining yield. Now what this does is just going to buff our controllers, but only when we send them on remote mining missions. It's going to buff those controllers while we're actually mining. Now there's a little bit of a caveat here. Because this miner has a physical stat, placing her or him or Miesha Paktu into a collector or controller would actually buff their general yield during local mining and not in remote mining. So the way that this actually ends up working is we develop kind of a hierarchy of and so this kind of leads to an assignment order where we want to take the bridge and assign our highest perks only. We're not worried about the physical stats in the bridge. Those aren't applying. Only the perks are. So we'll see that here in my bridge I have a rare type B miner and I have 2 epic type B miners for a grand total of 43% buff on RU type B mining. Now we can get over into our fleet configuration. So after we put our highest perks on the bridge, we want to take our highest perks and put them in the controllers. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take these, and these are going to be all of our highest B miners below what's already on the bridge. And this is going to be how we maximize it. Now, there could be potential other configurations that you want to explore, and that's fine. Min-maxing isn't the end-all be-all of the game. Do what you want. It's a game. Play how you feel. Alright, so we've talked about our miners, but we haven't really talked about our fleet configuration. So let's talk about collectors and controllers. All rarities, regardless of their tier, will have the same yield and speed, right? This means that any tier epic collector will outperform any tier common collector. So a tier 1 epic collector, which doesn't exist, don't look for it, will outperform a tier 4 common collector. That's how it works. It's not tier based yield, it's rarity based yield. So 2 controllers mine as much as a single epic variant collector. Now the statistics are not available right here, so we're not able to see how much this thing is actually mining, but presumably it's doing quite a bit. So use as many controllers as possible. There's evidence of a player drop queue limitation of 4 collectors. I've not really noticed this. The queue may be 4 collectors, so your mileage may vary. Do what you want. Play the game how you like. Yield and speed research is essential. Make sure that you get all that done. You're kind of going to have to focus on maybe A or B type ore first, because your C ore doesn't come in till tier 4. Mining speed on tier, and mining speed on B doesn't come until tier 3. So you're gonna be early on with tier A and type A and type M ores yields. Now, just a point on research, the bottom row down here applies to all tiers, right? So yes, this is a tier 2, but we see all resource collector holds plus 30%. Whereas the middle is applying to tier 4 or whatever tier that this is. And just make sure you note you look right here when you're doing research. It's like, why isn't my A buffing? Why isn't my tier A buffing when I'm researching the tier 4 stuff? Well, it's because that's not the way the research works, unfortunately. Beta. Beta. Now, mining is challenging for every tier, right? Tier 4 mining, it comes close to death very quickly. And that's just how it is. That's every tier is difficult for that tier. So always mine in groups, strengthen numbers. Your position is essential here whenever we're mining. So first thing we'll do, we'll come in here, we'll open up our sensors manager and we'll kind of look around for where we have ore. So I don't have any immediately accessible. I do have actually a few right here in my sensor bubble that I could start sending collectors to. So first thing I'll do is I'll deploy my ship, select a rock, and mine it. Now, one thing I like to do is I'll send off my collectors and I'll position my flagship a little far away from where my collectors are. Essentially what I want to do is I want to position my defenses in between the enemy spawn and where my collectors are, because ultimately collectors are targets of opportunity. They're going to be attacked just because they're there, not because they're doing any damage or anything like this. So if you come in and do damage, the enemy is immediately going to switch over to attacking you. So just don't even give them the chance to shoot at your collectors. Just keep them away from your flagship. We can prevent this by positioning our defenses, and when we group up, we can have multiple people. It does more damage. We're able to get through it. All right, so now we got some time to talk about advanced mining techniques. First of all, don't AFK mine. Take it from somebody who's lost so many collectors and controllers. Just don't do it. Which brings us to slum mining, which is essentially mining low tier ore with high tier equipment. You can essentially AFK mine forever, but make sure you're providing protection for weaker players, for newer players. But make sure you're providing protection for newer players. This can allow you to maximize your controllers and collectors by using only flagship weapons for defense, which kind of leads into a fleet and crew management perspective. This is the kind of approach that I'm using here, where I'm mining lower tier ore, but have a dedicated overpower fleet. This will allow me to min-max my bridge and officers all for the ore. All for the ore. Remote mining, players have access to 3 fleets, so if you have a dedicated mining fleet, you can make it dedicated overnight remote mining fleet using a T2 Mojave and the 3 escort slots. A commander can send off 3 controllers every night and see 5k of every ore type in their storage as an early morning Christmas present. So that can be started as early as tier 2 with the Mojave, but tier 3 is also potential with the collectors overnight, controllers overnight. In addition to doing fabs overnight and refines overnight, I mean, that's a good time frame to do it. It's easy, 8-10 hours, depending on your sleep schedule. And so in this kind of management of our crew and our fleet, we can also use the repair burst. So even though I have a dedicated fleet, I still have one officer on there that's always a repair burst, even though I could have more repair burst officers on, or more mining officers on my bridge. What this allows me to do is just pop a repair burst, if I need to. But some players will use this as the strategy for mining higher tier ore. They just continue to pop a repair burst every 50 seconds or so, and they can increase their survivability and longevity. But with that, we can also do a repair collector mining. So after taking some damage, preferably hull damage, after your armor's been depleted, you use a single repair collector to repair your flagship, and you can increase mining survivability way beyond your burst mining method. Paired with a flagship based repair beam, this is a valid tactic through T3 and You can keep your ship full health the entire storage time, which kind of leads into, if you're expanding all of this mining capability, please build some T2 storage modules, mod them, max level them up all the way, and stuff those in the front section of your flagship. Remove RP production. It's gonna generate anyway. It's just gonna generate less at a slower rate, but compared to how much you're getting in storage, I mean, my carrier has 240 storage. That's 240,000 ore that I can mine. And you can kind of do the math. If you're getting about 2,000 a tick, then that's 120 ticks, so about 60 minutes, about an hour of mining right there, from just adding storage. Which also kind of leads into other tactics, which are group mining, where you not necessarily mine in a group with other players, but you separate your miners and your collectors in different points of the map so that they're mining around here. And essentially what this does is increase survivability. If your flagship's destroyed, it's unlikely that your miners are going to get attacked, because they're targets of opportunity. They're only attacked if they're within sensor range of the enemy and there's nothing else shooting it. So that could help survivability, and even if one group doesn't get attacked, if the other group is out of sensor range of that one, then it's not going to get attacked. Which kind of leads into kite mining. Essentially, you send off your miners, but you stack your ship up with speed mods, and you just run around trying to keep your enemies out of weapon range, but able to attack them. Alright, thanks Commanders for watching. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment if you feel so inclined, and don't forget to do your dailies.
Watch for debris. Come get some.